Sarah Sanders in the middle of all of this. She joined us now here on GMA. Thank you for coming in this morning. Let's start out with Rod Rosenstein right there. The president spoke with him on the phone yesterday. Did he tell Mr. Rosenstein that he wants him to stay on the job?
They had an extended conversation and decided to continue it, and they're going to do that on Thursday, and both agreed that it was best to have a conversation like that in person, and that's what they're going to do in 2 days.
Does the president have confidence in Mr. Rosenstein?
The president has confidence in the system, and he...
That's not what I asked.
Well, he wants to, again, I'm not going to get ahead of the conversation that's going to take place. Certainly, he wants things to take place. There have been a number of incidents that have caused a great deal of concern, not just to the president, but to Americans all over the country. People like Bruce Orr, McCabe, and a number of others who have been dishonest and not played the role that they were meant to play through the FBI and through the Department of Justice. And the president wants to have a conversation with Rod Rosenstein, and that'll take place on Thursday.
He wants to know if Rod Rosenstein said, should I wear a wire on the president?
Look, I think he wants to have a conversation with him. They had a very long and good conversation yesterday, and they want to continue that in a couple days.
If Rosenstein refuses to resign, will the president fire him?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president's decision making. Again, he wants the process to work. He wants the Department of Justice to be focused on what it should be and not focused on all of the things that have been taking place over the last several months and frankly, what has become the talk of the Justice Department. That's not what they should be focused on. And that's what the president wants to make sure that they're focused on what they should be.
One of the president's personal attorneys, Jay Sekulow, said that the Mueller investigation should be put on hold if Rosenstein leaves his job. Is that the president's position?
I'm not going to get into the specifics on the Mueller investigation. We think it should be finished because they've spent a year and a half digging through and have still come up with nothing. There was no collusion.
They've had several indictments, several convictions.
Nothing that has anything to do with the president or his campaign. And it's ridiculous that they continue to drum this up and drag it out. And it should, I think, be wrapping up.
Several convictions, several cooperating witnesses. But let me move on.
Nothing to do with the president, though.
And I think
that's important to note.
Can you assure the American people that whatever happens with Rod Rosenstein, the president will allow the Mueller investigation to continue and to conclude?
The president has cooperated throughout this entire process for an extended period of time. He wants it to be transparent. That's why he's asked for documents to be released and why he and his entire staff have been completely cooperative from day one. But
so he will allow it to finish?
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of where the president is, but he has been very clear that he wants this to come to a conclusion. We expect that it should. And again, they've spent a year and a half and found nothing that has anything to do with this president because there was nothing.
Have to move on to Brett Kavanaugh. The president had that tweet last night railing against false accusations against Mr. Kavanaugh. Why doesn't he think that Ms. Ramirez and Dr. Ford are lying?
Certainly, the president has said a number of times that these individuals should be heard.
And he called their accusations false already before they're heard.
Brett Kavanaugh has been unequivocal in his denial of this. He knows Brett Kavanaugh. He's spent a great deal of time with him, and he trusts him. And Brett Kavanaugh has asked for his voice to be heard in this process, too. As last I can remember, we're still a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, except when you're a conservative Republican. It is absolutely shameful what the Democrats have done and the way that they've turned this into a complete political process.
Except
multiple lives have been ruined. Both families have been dragged through the mud when they didn't have to be, because Dianne Feinstein wanted to could have done this in a much more structured process, and instead waited until the 11th hour and is playing political games with people's lives. And I find that to be disgraceful and disgusting. And she certainly needs to shoulder a lot of the blame for what's going on right now.
You have both Ms. Ramirez and Dr. Ford saying there should be an FBI investigation. If they thought they weren't telling the truth, they wouldn't be inviting an FBI investigation. Why is it wrong to have an FBI investigation for something as important as a Supreme Court nominee?
Because we have a process in place. They have a Senate process, and we think it should be done through that. No one is trying to hide from this. In fact, Brett Kavanaugh's been leaning in. He's been begging to come and tell his story and be able to do that, whether it's publicly or privately. He's asked for that opportunity, and he's been perfectly open for others to have the opportunity opportunity to share their side as well. But let's be clear, from the very beginning, he has been strong and unequivocal in his denial that anything like this happened. He also has a lifetime of a record of empowering and respecting women. And you've seen hundreds of women that know him and know him well come out and say exactly that.
And some of them recant that as well, though. But from the president from the very beginning has been questioning the story of Dr. Ford, including that tweet last week saying that if she were telling the truth, she would have reported it to the authorities at the time. That drew a sharp response from Senator Susan Collins.
I was appalled by the president's tweet. I thought that the president's tweet was completely inappropriate and wrong.
What's your response?
Look, the president once again has said on a number of occasions that he thinks everybody's voices should be heard, and let's let this process play out. It's the Democrats who have been halting it from the beginning and not allowing this to go through the process because they want this to be a political game, and I think that the way that they have operated in this is absolutely appalling. If anything has been appalling, it's the way that they have gone after and used these people's stories and their lives and exploited them for political gain.
These women have come forward and agreed to go public,
to do it in a private manner, and could have done so had Senator Dianne Feinstein allowed that to happen, and she didn't.
Well, actually, they went public.
She
she was respecting the confidentiality, but you've said that everybody's voices should be heard. So does the president want Ms. Ramirez to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee as well?
Certainly, we would be open to that, and that process could take place on Thursday. Again, the president's been clear. Let them speak, but let's also let Brett Kavanaugh speak, and let's let him tell his side of the story before we allow allegations to determine his entire future.
It does seem, though, that the president has already reached a judgment about their stories, and there does seem to be a pattern here. When Roy Moore is accused, when Bill O'Reilly is accused, when Roger Ailes is accused, when Rob Porter is accused, and now when Brett Kavanaugh is accused, the president consistently, every single time, takes the side of the man.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. It's a lot of Democrats that like to ignore Keith Ellison and Cory Booker. They love to fight and champion women until they disagree with them.
Al Franken lost his job in the Senate.
And a number of other Democrats should have the same type of scrutiny. Look, the president is perfectly
But what's the answer to my
happy.
question? Every single time the president has taken the side of the man against women accusers.
That's not true. And in this case, the president knows Brett Kavanaugh. He's heard his story. There hasn't been a shred of evidence to corroborate the other individual stories. And there has been a lot of individuals that have come forward and talked about the Brett Kavanaugh that they know, and they're confident that these things didn't happen.
Final question. What does the president hope to achieve at the UN today?
I think that his speech this morning is going to be a great moment for the president. We've had a tremendous amount of success, particularly when it comes to the foreign policy front over the last year since he gave his last speech. If you'll remember, the rhetoric last year was extremely tough with North Korea. I think you'll see certainly a different tone, and a lot of progress has been made on that front, in large part due to the president's leadership.
Sarah Sanders, thanks very much.